it's both amazing. I'm so grateful, and all of that stuff. And it's also been scary, overwhelming, and difficult, because it's like you're having to shift into a different way of living. You're kind of expected to know how to do it, but of course we don't know how to do it. Like, we've never experienced anything like this before, so we're kind of learning along the way. But this, the wake of it has been, it's been a lot, and it's taken up, I mean, the White Lotus experience now has been a year and a half, so it's a long time. It's a long time.
How are you taking care of yourself? I mean, given the social media swirl of everything that you've been through since the show has ended, are you okay?
Thank you for asking.
Sure.
That's so nice. God, that made me emotional. I am okay. I spoke to Parker Posey today, and it was just the best chat, because she just does it so right. Like, she just doesn't engage with that. It's like, this is her experience. She is taking from this what Parker needs to take, and rather than kind of being at the mercy of other people's opinions, and it's about her experience. And I think that I'm good. I think that I've learned so much about people and about myself from the craziness of this. Like, I've learned a lot about, and for that I'm really grateful, actually. And I've kind of had reckonings in my life that I would never have had without this pressure cooker. So I think it's kind of sped up my growing up process quite a lot. Like, I think I'm like, a lot of stuff has been learned in this very short space of time. Like, Parker was like, we're entertainers. Our job is to entertain, and then we become not entertaining because of how, like how heavy some of the stuff can be. And actually, you have to just kind of be silly actors. We're silly actors. We love pretending, and we love, and it's when you forget that, or when you lose track of that, I think that's when it becomes very confusing. And you have to reconnect to the fact that we're daft, and we're silly, and we tell stories. That's who we are. And when we're creating, that's when we feel ourselves. And actually, we're not designed for that other part of it. We're not actually designed for the social media, all of that stuff. That's a different job. That's actually a completely separate job, and a completely separate thing to the acting. And like, that's the bit that we can do. It's like two separate jobs. This part, the two things, like you said, the two parts, like, this part is harder, of course, because it's not what is our element. I'm not in my element doing this. It's more difficult to work out and navigate. I'm in my element when I'm on set, and I'm like, finding that moment in Chelsea's story, and I think, oh, I've just got to tell the truth here, and that's what I love. But the other stuff, it is like a completely different skill.
But of course, you're only human at the end of the day too, and so you have to find that right balance between the two.
Yeah, you do. You really do. And because at one point it was a bit like, everyone's coming at me, this is so overwhelming. And it's like, actually, everyone's not coming at you, Aimee. They're coming at an idea of you. They're coming at Aimee Lou Wood, who's someone that they don't actually know, and someone that that's not you. You're a concept to those people. You're a concept to those people commenting on social media. The people who love you and know you are still the same people. And so actually, all of that stuff can't really touch Aimee, because they don't, it's strangers. It's people who don't know me, having a bit of detachment from the kind of idea, especially with like a character like Chelsea. Like, when I was in New York the week before the final came out, and people were so, coming up to me, running up to me, grabbing me, like literally physically grabbing me in the street, and like screaming in my face, like, please tell me it's not you that dies. You know, it's very, and they're saying you. They're not saying, please tell me it's not Chelsea who dies.
Right.
Saying you. And so, especially with the design of Mike's show and his casting, is that he wants people who are really close to their characters, who do share an essence with them. So then you've got that, and you've also got people saying, you don't die, do you? Please don't die. You don't. And it's like, it's Chelsea, but it becomes extremely personal. And then it's like, well, actually, the you that they're talking about isn't me. It's Chelsea. Mm-hmm. And so I even had someone say to me, they were talking to me and they said, is she, you know, they wanted to know, my friends wanted to know if you were the same in real life and if you were like Chelsea. And I said, no, she's really nice, but she's not Chelsea. She's not like funny like Chelsea or whatever. And I was like, I'm being compared to a character and I'm like feeling like a disappointment. And I think that's a really kind of interesting thing to experience, which is like Aimee starts feeling like a disappointment because she's not Chelsea. And it's like, but that's not me, but it also is me. So it becomes very odd. And especially when it's a show that's penetrates the like zeitgeist this much, it means that kind of everyone has got an opinion. Everyone. Yeah, you start to feel like you don't belong to yourself. And I think that's what Parker was trying to say to me this morning is, this is yours. You can take from this what you need, what you want to further your journey as a human being and as an actor. It doesn't have to be for anyone else. This is for you.
I think there's also something about Chelsea inhabiting a world that's full of very unlikable characters. And Chelsea is probably one of the fundamentally good people that exists in that world. How did you find your way into her?
I felt very deeply connected to her from the first read of the audition sides I got through. And I'd always wanted to be in White Lotus and I just didn't know where I would fit. I would watch it and I'd think, I want to be in this show and I want to work with Mike, but where the hell do I fit in this world? I don't feel like there's a way in. And then I saw these audition sides from Chelsea and I was like, this is the way in. If it's going to be anything, it's going to be this. I really understood her and she really resonated with me. And I think Mike really just bolstered that. We didn't have many chats about Chelsea intellectually. It was all very gut driven. His thing was more like telling me, you already know. Like,
you knew from the beginning that she was going to die?
Yes, I did. Mm. And so honestly, the recall, I did the scene where it said, we're going to be together forever, don't you think? And he says, that's the plan. And she says, is it? And as soon as I said those words in the recall, I knew it was them that died. I knew it was them. And Mike was like, I think you're picking up on something here that, you know, and he told me from the recall, I knew from the second time I ever, you know, spoke Chelsea's lines that she was the one who dies and that Rick was too. And so you kind of have to put it out your mind while you're filming because she doesn't know she's going to die, even though she does kind of have a connection to death that is quite strange. Like she's kind of obsessed with it and she's obviously feeling that it's close to her because she keeps
saying bad things happen in threes.
Exactly.
Referencing it.
Yeah, she references it a lot. So that was also helpful because it meant that I could kind of know in the back of my mind, because I think Chelsea knows in the back of hers, she knows that she's a person who cannot help but go towards danger. Very connected to her death drive, which is what makes her so alive as a person, because she thinks about death a lot and she's close to it. So it means that she lives very courageously and very moment to moment. It also is like really sad because I felt like I was this person who just couldn't help but walk towards her own doom. And that reminds me of so many like women that I love, who I looked up to so much growing up, you know, these kind of tragic heroines. They were amazing and wonderful and brought so much light to the world, but also had this self-destruct button that they couldn't stop pressing. And it's part of what made them so alive and so interesting as artists, but it also meant that they didn't live. And so it was, I kind of just always understood that Chelsea was someone who almost knew that she wasn't going to live that long. So therefore, a relationship like hers and Rick's isn't really that scary to her, because she's got that amour fatty thing going on, which is, yeah, this is probably destructive, but that doesn't really hold any, that doesn't stop her from doing anything, because she's kind of already accepted that maybe her life isn't going to be a long one, and it's not going to be a cozy one and a safe one. It's going to be bright and fast.
What motivates her? Is it her love for Rick?
I think that with Chelsea, a thing that really helped me in was her line about bad things have happened to me too, and you don't see me walking around feeling sorry for myself, that she says to Chloe. And after I said that, I was like, Chelsea is running away from something. Chelsea's running away from a pain, just the same as Rick is. The way that they deal with it is so different. And by pouring herself into Rick, she never has to look at her own stuff. She doesn't have to. It's all about his pain. And she kind of laments that to Chloe, but really she likes it that way, because it means that she can just see and give and pour and not ever have to look in. It's all looking out. And that's why she's so confronted by Saxon, because like trying to look at her, and she's like, whoa, no, that's not how I work. I do the looking, you know? And so I think that what motivates her is love for Rick, but it's also a really deep fear of sitting with herself. She doesn't want to feel her feelings. She's running away. She's gone traveling. She doesn't stop moving. She doesn't stop talking, you know? She's constantly talking, like words are her armor. She just chats. And when she's lying on the floor at the end and she can't speak, for the first time, Rick actually gets to see her almost more clearly than she's ever let him see her before, because she's got nothing funny to say, nothing inquisitive to ask. She's just her, and he can see how much he adores her and loves her, but she doesn't really let anyone properly get to know her. She does a lot of pointing the finger at Rick, like, you're so mysterious, but there's three fingers pointing back, and she is very mysterious. It's a very clever coping mechanism with life. It's both love, it's both adoration and love for Rick, and a true belief that that's her soulmate. It also means she avoids all responsibility, because if it's written in the stars, if it's fate, then she doesn't have any responsibility. She doesn't have any choice. It's done. It's written. Whatever goes will go, and I don't have any control over it. It's a very clever way to avoid ever growing up, facing your stuff, facing your feelings, and taking responsibility, because we're soulmates. So there's nothing I can do about it. And that's why her and Rick are so similar, because Rick's like, there's nothing I can do. This is my fate. I have to go and kill this man. No, you don't. And Chelsea's like, I have to go and say, you actually don't. Like, neither of you do. This is not written. You have free will. But both of them believe that their stories are already written and that they can't change it. And that's why they are the perfect storm.
So you knew from the beginning that she was going to die. When did Walton find out that Rick was going to die and that they were going to die together? Were you able to perform to that?
We both knew from the beginning. And we really, I think about 2 weeks before we knew we were filming it, both of us were just weird. We were discombobulated, and also it was the fact that we knew we were going to have to keep filming after we died, so we essentially both come back to life, and then had to do all the rest of our scenes having experienced the death, because we filmed the death halfway through. We got to kind of come back to life, and everything was almost in perspective for Rick and Chelsea. But that's what made it so much more sad, is that we knew where they were headed, because we'd already done that and we'd already experienced it. And so then you're doing all the scenes after that with, oh my God, I just wish that they could really find each other in this moment and just stay here, just stay here, because we know where they're going and we've already experienced it. And it's like, they can't have the same perspective that we have. So it's this odd thing of that we have to then almost deny what we'd learned from the death. It was because they had to still be in a kind of, tunnel vision place. Whereas I think that the death cracks Rick open. Mm-hmm. So then it's like Walton had to be cracked open and then put it all back in and go back to Rick's kind of, can't see straight, doesn't have perspective. And I had to do the same thing, where it was like, I had to pretend to not know who Rick was, the reality of Rick, when actually I've seen the reality. I've seen that there's nothing I can do to stop him. And so you then have to put it all back in and pretend like you don't know. So it's a very trippy experience, especially with a death, because that's the ultimate ending. So it was kind of like this odd thing where you almost feel like a bit of a ghost.
Right.
Because walking around the Four Seasons, like, I'm a ghost. I'm not. It's this odd thing.
It must have changed the other characters' interaction with you too, especially someone like Saxon. Where in the order was that scene filmed? That scene on the beach where you run into Rick's arms?
So what was really crazy about that, I mean, Patrick only realised this the other day, was we filmed that so early on. So early on. And I watched that scene when we all watched the final, and I went, do you know what? That's so clear that Patrick and I had, like, we became such good friends, and you can see that friendship in that scene. No, we didn't know each other. It's really interesting watching like the bits where it feels like, oh, that must have been a scene where we knew each other so well, and it was 7 months in, and actually it was about 2 weeks in, maybe less. And he also didn't know, because he doesn't like reading. He wants to be able to watch the show and not know what happens. So his bits. So he didn't actually know that Chelsea died. Yeah, so we filmed that, and it was so early on. And actually, I think that helped, because he got to kind of go into Saxon's vulnerability and, again, put it then back inside. But it's there. And I think the same thing happened with me, where to get to do that run across the beach to Rick so early on gave me everything that I need to know about Chelsea. Like, that's the feeling she's living for, is that they don't see each other, they don't connect, and then the euphoria when he comes back to her. She's living for that high. She's living for that thrill of, he's come back to me, he's chosen me, he's returned. And so doing that early on, it made me understand her so much more as well, because that is a huge feeling. It is a huge feeling when he walked across the beach and he was back, that we're going to be together. That's the feeling that she's chasing. So getting to experience that feeling early on, I think, was really helpful.
Do you think Saxon was changed by his encounter with Chelsea? Do you think she changed him?
I think that she did change him. I think she did. And I think that it wasn't even romantic. I think it was someone that he needed to meet on his spiritual journey that just shocked him. I think that he was so in his script. He was in a script, and she just came and ripped up the pages of the script and went, no, we don't follow that. I'm not doing those lines, and I think it was the shock of this human that woke him up. But I think that he thinks it's romantic because he doesn't know any other way to be with women. It has to be that there's some kind of objective desire to him if he's interested. But actually what I think Saxon realizes over the course is that he's so much more interested in what she has to say and what she has to teach than his own lust. It's actually way more about, and I think they could have had a beautiful friendship. I think what's so sad is that both of them could have had a gorgeous friendship, but they were both blinkered by something that was stopping them from connecting fully to each other. If Saxon's soul and nature was brought up in a different family, he wouldn't be that guy. And if Chelsea had a different life, she wouldn't be that girl. So they kind of miss each other when actually by nature they're probably very similar. I think they're both really trying in life. I think they're both triers, and I think that they're fiery and similar, but they just, conditioning has been so different that they think they're opposites, but they're actually so deeply similar.
All right, one last question because I have to let you go. But what's one thing you took away from the experience, whether it was a piece of advice from Mike White or something you learned about yourself?
I mean, I've learned so much. And like, probably one of the most profound life moments I ever had was watching Chelsea die, sat with, you know, Charlotte and Patrick and all my friends, all these amazing friends that I've made, and going, oh, it's like permission to let go of anything in Chelsea that was me, that was holding me back. Just getting to grow up for both of us. That like the thing that Chelsea can't do is grow up. And actually, I think that it's made me more ready to be a grown up. And I think that's probably the thing that I've taken from this experience is like, who do I want to be as a person? You know, who do I want to be as a human being? And how do I want to live? Because I now have the privilege of getting to be a grown-up. And if I'd made a different step in my life when I was younger, I might have been a Chelsea. So it's like seeing that unfold is really profound.